What's up and welcome to another Mograph Mocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt, and joining us today, I'm very excited about this show. Founder of Swordfish in San Francisco, the super awesome motion design studio, Mr. Matt Silverman.
Hi there.
And Mograph is a supplement to our site, mograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other Mograph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. You can email us, info@mograph.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Questions, comments, concerns, queries, grievances, artist suggestions, show topic ideas. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok.
Hello, TikTok.
And mograph.com. Check us out on all the things and subscribe and all the things. We have a lot to talk about in the week wrap-up today.
It is a big week.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a huge week. We got, if you haven't joined us before, we were talking about this before the show. We got to do the week wrap-up at the beginning of the show. We got to tell people what's going on. There's a lot to know about the previous weeks.
We can't just immediately jump in and know everything about Matt Silverman. We have to tell everyone how our week was.
That's right. And we got to tell everybody, what happened in the world of motion graphics. Matt, for example, was on the 3D Motion Show last week. If you missed that, make sure you check that out. And,
doing some classic Mograph, you know.
Check out that
good old classic Mograph. Yeah, not showing off anything new that you couldn't have done in the past, 4 years, 5 years.
Some people haven't seen that stuff.
Right.
You know, every day somebody's born that hasn't seen the Flintstones.
That's true.
That's a Merlinism. Merlin man. But you just got back from your LA trip and your arms are tired.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I took a red eye this morning at 1 a.m. out of LAX, left immediately from the Otoy party to the airport, and then flew and had my person sitting next to me, the random stranger, fall asleep on me for the entire flight. So that was fun, you know. But yeah, this weekend was awesome. Motion Plus Design was in LA this weekend, and it was so good. There were so many amazing presenters. Just the cool stuff that people were doing was fantastic, and got to hang out with Winbush and Beeple and James Ramirez and EJ and all the cool motion designers. It was very, very fun. Yeah, Beeple. Man, Beeple was all over the place. I get to meet his wife this weekend.
Oh,
you know? And his brother, you know. It was pretty cool. So, nice. Then Otoy had this big rooftop party, and you got to hang out with Jules and a bunch of really cool people. We nerded out. Oh, I mean, so I don't know if you've seen the GCC talk that Jules did yet.
Oh man,
it's fantastic, and he goes really in depth into the stuff that they're doing with the Gene Roddenberry archive, and shows off the whole Star Trek, the Enterprise that they're building and stuff like that, and it is fantastic. It is so detailed and incredible, and he let us know. So actually they're re-releasing the Star Trek 1, Star Trek the Motion Picture on Blu-ray, and they redid a bunch of the scenes that were rendered out in Octane, It's really funny, and he was telling me, he's like, I don't know if Paramount knows this or not, but they ended up actually sending a bunch of those scenes on the render network, in order to get them rendered for the Blu-ray release, which is really cool. It's neat to see that happening. But
you got your comic signed, right?
I got my comic signed. I was super excited. Jules was really excited about I was I ran over, I grabbed my comic because Matthias had reminded me, and so I went and grabbed it, and he saw it, and I was like, can you sign this? He was like, oh my gosh, yes, someone take a picture of this. It was fun. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
So, and then got home, and now I'm ready for a show, and I'm super tired, and I'm loaded up on Monster Energy drink.
Yeah,
so
like you do.
Like you do.
We got a couple other things to talk about the week wrap-up as well, like the NAB, the NAB shenanigans in general. If you have not checked out mograph.com/NAB 2022, make sure you check out that video with us and EJ. We talk about the parties and things, but we are talking about the possibility of doing our after pinball party shenanigans.
Yes.
Because we weren't going to do it.
Karaoke.
We're thinking about doing it.
Here's the thing.
I don't know if we can talk about why, but
sure,
we'll
I'll talk
it
about why.
later. I don't know.
So
Okay.
it's fine. It's
Okay.
fine. So
Okay.
when Beeple messages you and says, "Hey, why aren't you doing this party? The last one was awesome," and he offers to pay for it, then you're like, "Okay, I guess we'll do the party." So we're gonna do the karaoke party again.
Asterisk. Pending
Asterisk.
availability.
Yep.
We don't even
Pending
know.
availability. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll be
so
maybe off the record Mograph.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Only the people who listen to this
old
episode
people in
will
the
know.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're working on it. So keep an ear out for that. It would be after the pinball party on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Just wanted to put that out there. Also, make sure you check out all the courses, of course. Got to remind you to check out the courses. The Brush Up course, if you want to learn Procreate, make sure that you check that out. And then, of course, the Houdini and Unreal courses. Mograph.com/classes and Mograph TV. Make sure you turn it on and rip the knob off. Put it on at your place of work.
Yep.
Put it on it. Always streaming. Hashtag always streaming. Always live.
I was talking to Mike this weekend about his like offices, because he's building out this whole thing, and he's like, "Yeah, you got to come down and see my office." I was like, "What is it? Just a desk and like Fox News and CNN on the other one?" And he goes, "No, you got to see." He shows me a picture. He's got 6 freaking TVs on his wall, and I'm like, "Why isn't Mograph TV playing on one of those TVs?"
That's right.
Yeah, Yahoo News. You don't need Yahoo News. You need Mograph TV, dude.
TV, yo. That's what you need. And then two other things. One real quick. Make sure you check out the new article on the site, or you might see it pop up in your splash screen for Cinema 4D on Jags. And all things Jags and all things Jags has done lately, including the Halo thing. I think it's funny that some people might open Cinema 4D and click an article and read about our Halo team.
Right.
So it's kind of fun.
It's the dream. That's the dream right there.
But lastly, this is what we really got to dig into here for a second before we get to Matt. Is Camp Mograph.
Camp Mograph, yes.
Stuff to talk about now. I'll even bring up the website because I figure you might be talking about it in depth
Mark
here.
did a fantastic job on the website, by the way. I'm really I love
good.
the way it looks. Yeah. So yes, we announced all the stuff and things. We announced our instructors, the different workshops we're gonna have, and all our fireside chats. I'm super excited about it. So up for Fireside Chats, we've got Amanda Russell. She's a co-founder of Cream Studio, which is awesome. Super excited about that. We've also got John Lepore from Perception coming in. He's going to talk about all things Marvel, And then I'm super excited about Freddie Wong. So we're bringing Freddie Wong. He's if you don't know Freddie's work, he's done a bunch of stuff with Corridor, and produced Video Game High School, and has done TV shows and movies and short films and worked with a ton of different like amazing directors and actors and stuff. It's super, super cool. I'm really excited for him to, kind of like just talk about everything that he's done in the past, which is great.
Super excited about that.
Yeah. He was a big influence on me for like compositing and stuff like that, even though I'm pretty sure we're the same age, just being able to watch him and watch his breakdowns and stuff like that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, then we've got 6 different workshops being offered, which is exciting. We've got Billy Chitkins teaching storytelling in Mograph, which is cool. And then Tori Bryant is going to be doing a painting class. Super excited about this one. We even picked out the perfect area. There's this big like dock that overlooks the the water and the ocean and stuff like that. And we're going to be doing it outside, hopefully as long as weather permitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got Sean Dumont teaching screen printing. So we're going to actually be like screen printing posters and like pulling inks and stuff like that. It's going to be so much fun. I'm super excited about that. And then Amoni LaRussa doing some like hands-on texturing and stuff like that, very kind of similar to the Surface Imperfections workshop we had last year, but like actually like creating textures instead of like surface imperfections. Super cool. And then we've got Joe Pilger doing the business of Mograph. I'm really excited about this one. I feel like a lot of people are gonna want to hop into this one because they're it with a lot of these things, like especially with like the the producing workshop we had last year, it's like, you know, you get into it and you realize, okay, I am actually doing a lot of this stuff right, and I'm also doing some of this stuff wrong. So, you know, the business of Mograph I'm really excited about. And then Jen Van Horn is going to be teaching time and task management for Mographers, which is super exciting. Very, very exciting. So if you go on the website, campmograph.com, we've also got a daily agenda so you can kind of know what to expect and all the amazing activities. You can also check out the lodging. So the lodging is a big thing that we're changing up this year. We've got 2 different options for lodging. The first one is just your standard community cabins where you're hanging out with other people. You know, we still try and keep the amount of people down per cabin. Like I think we max it out at like 5. So, you know, you're not like jam packed in there like a bunch of sardines, you know. But yeah, so the community cabin tickets are $800. And then we're introducing this year private rooms. Now, we've had a lot of people be like, oh, I don't want to bunk with a bunch of people. I'm worried about people snoring, you know. I'm looking at you, Paul Robinson, about those private, you know. And so, you know, if you're willing to spend the extra cash, we've got them here. You know, it's you're basically paying twice the cost of a regular community cabin. You know, we really want people to be in the community cabins. But if you want your own room with your own private bathroom, you know, and it's very private for you, the option is there. So it's $1,600 for that, you know, but, you know, you get your privacy. You don't have to worry about sharing a shower with people, which is fine, you know. Now, on top of that, we also have the ability this year, similar to what we did the first year, where if you wanting to camp, like actually like bring a tent and like pitch a tent and like sleep outside under the stars or whatever, you totally can. We've got a big area for tent camping as well if you just want to do that. So all you'll do is when you buy a ticket, just let us know that you're planning on tent camping. So should be a lot of fun. Tickets go on sale April 20th at noon Eastern time.
Yep.
So make sure and set your alarms because, you know, last year they sold out in 45 seconds. And I'm fully expecting it to happen. I'm not sure. I'm fully hoping to have the same thing happen again. So you got 15 minutes to check out. And keep in mind the private cabins are, you know, it's very limited quantities, you know, versus the community cabins. So if you just want to go, you know, like you're probably more likely to get a community cabin than you would be a private because there's more of those tickets, but you know, whatever you want to do. So on that note, I just want to say thanks to our sponsors. You know, without our sponsors, we couldn't have made camp, you know, as affordable or whatever as possible and have all the awesome amenities and all the fun stuff that we're planning. So huge shout out to our sponsors, our global sponsor, Otoy, you know, for sponsoring the entire event. And we appreciate that so much. And then our village sponsors, we've got Maxon and Video Copilot. Super excited to be staying in one of those villages. And then our gold sponsor, Grayscale Gorilla. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Without them, we couldn't have done this. So that is Camp Mograph. Set your alarms. Super excited. Check it all out. Sign up for updates on campmograph.com.
420 is going to be a big day.
It's going to be a big day.
It's going to be a real big day. You got Camp Mograph tickets on sale. You've got something that Paul has said on the 3D Motion Show last week is going to be on 420 for Maxon.
Really?
That's also exciting. The day that you and I have to take off to head to Vegas.
We have to fly to Vegas,
for NAB. So
and I'll probably be smoking a joint on the top of my tab.
Yeah. Well, that's the most important thing of the day, right? You know. Yeah.
The term 420 was actually invented in the town where my office is.
Really?
San Rafael, California.
About that. What
it was invented at San Rafael High School. There is proof of this. Yeah.
That's really funny.
God, see, I heard a different story on that. That's interesting.
That story is wrong.
So what was the reason that number came to be? Was it from the time?
These guys would meet at 4:20 p.m. after school to go smoke weed.
All right.
They were called like the Waldos or something. You could find the info. It's just another example of you know, how important San Rafael is to my world, because also that's where ILM was started,
right?
And that's where Pixar was started. That's where the nonlinear editor was invented.
Yep.
That is where the Grateful Dead came from and their studio, and there's a lot of history in that town. And I
So
just moved up there last year, so I dig it. So,
Yeah.
the history.
420 is really important. You know, it seems like it leads to a lot of. See, here's the story.
It's very important for like Uber Eats and like Yelp and stuff like that. It's a very big day for those.
I always heard a different story. I always heard that it was some artists in some band somewhere, and they were always commenting on how it's always just happens to be 420 when you look at your watch or look at a clock or something. So I have started screenshotting.
I think that's only because yeah, I know.
Did I tell you I screenshot?
Oh yeah, you've been doing that for years.
I've been doing it.
You've been doing that for years.
At least 6 years. You would not believe how many screenshots for 20 I have. I always just happen to see it, and screenshot.
Well, I always see 941 for some reason. I don't know why.
941.
Figure that one out.
I have
that's a little inside joke.
Two links I wanted to mention real quick, just because we already hit one of them. We already touched on one of them, so I figured we'd get them out of the way real quick. The GTC talk. Make sure you check that out. We are talking to Jules about being on the show again for that. To talk about all of that, because there's a million questions, of course. The only other link I had is this is something apparently happened a couple weeks ago that I was not aware of until recently. Is some sort of video co-pilot hack. And I just thought everybody needs to know
a hack
this.
At some point. So if you installed Video Copilot stuff within the past 6 months, double check you may want to reinstall it, because there was they had gotten hacked or something, so it installed malware on your systems and stuff. So just be aware of that.
It's malware too, where they install screen sharing onto your computer. And I forget who it was. I'm trying to remember now. I want to say it was Adam Elder, and somebody was telling me the story that Adam Elder told them. So this is very vague, but I think he actually saw it happen. He saw somebody log in and try and snoop around on his computer or something. So very important that you check that out, because the malware was put into their installer file somehow or something, and so
especially if you're in the crypto market or something, and you're bringing up your MetaMask to sign all those things.
They hijacked your links. I see. So they changed the links to a different. Just double check that. Really double check that. And they have a page that addresses it. That'll be in the show notes as well, so you can check that out. But Matt, let's talk about you. Let's talk about you now. We want to know all the things. Now, here's the thing.
Do we need to hit our record button?
Oh my gosh, I hope you're joking.
Are you joking?
No, you guys never told me to hit it. You said you would tell me when.
We did. And we hit, and we did the little clap and everything to sync it.
Oh shit, dude.
That's all right. We'll take the beginning from YouTube, and then we'll cut it all together.
We'll hit record now.
It's on now. You guys want to clap?
Let's do the sync again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
That's okay. You know what? Most of the talking was me and Dave anyway. So that'll be an easy edit. Right, Dave? Yeah. You're like, fuck you.
Yes, except the part where I have to edit in the YouTube audio.
I'll overdub whatever I say.
Right.
Yeah.
We can put some subtitles below.
ADR session. You can get that on the calendar. Yeah.
It's a good thing I was thinking about that. So.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you. Let's talk about everything you, from the beginning to school, where you got like the first inkling of what you wanted to do for a living, and then we'll get into some of the business stuff as well.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in New York.
Cool.
My father was in advertising, so I kind of was able to see this world a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a Mad Men situation, or?
Yeah, definitely Mad Men situation. He was in New York at Ogilvy and Mather in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And started in he started as a in the mailroom, and next thing you know, was writing copy for David Ogilvy, and then became a creative director. And so we moved from New York to Houston, where he was managing like Shell Oil accounts in the 70s, and then to LA, spent a little time in LA, and then my parents split up. moved back to New York with my mother. So I would go out every summer with my father, and and he'd take me to shoots or take me to an audio session or an edit house. So I was very fortunate to be exposed to this world early on. Whereas like my friends in New York, his dad's a real estate agent, they never knew that this was really an opportunity. So I kind of saw that. And then I started skateboarding when I was probably about 11 or 12, and spent a lot of time getting into trouble downtown with my friends and just skating around. And
skating in New York?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the movie Kids.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, like those were my friends in that movie. So we would hang out with like those guys, and Justin Pierce, who was the star of that movie. He came out to my dad's house in LA, and we would go skate around California and stuff. And
I've always heard that if you're skating in New York on the streets, you basically have a death wish.
I've seen some crazy stuff go down. I've seen people get hit by cars and go right back up. But like 30 of us cruising down the West Side Highway on the road.
Yeah.
Going up to the 23rd Street banks. It was crazy when I look back on it, and I was also in New York in the 80s, so that wasn't like, that was crazy New York. Some dude suddenly just pulls a razor blade out from under his lip and is robbing you in a project. But anyway, so I was doing that, and that I had a friend who had a video camera, and that's when skateboard videos started taking off in the 80s. So we would see all these, our idols would be on video, so we would go and just make our own little videos ourselves. And I was a terrible student in high school, and because I just wanted to go skateboard.
Yeah, right.
So we I got lucky, and I tested really well. Standardized tests I did really well, and classes I did terribly. So they put me into this gifted and talented program where I got to do whatever I want for half the day.
That's cool.
And what I wanted to do was make skateboard videos. So I would just go out on the weekends with my friends. We would shoot, and then the school had a linear editing system.
Nice.
This is like 1988, 89.
VHS to VHS, AB editing.
SVHS.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
So you know it's good.
Yeah, even better. Yeah. So but we were shooting on VHS, so it was like a giant camcorder on your shoulder, and would take that footage and then pop it into these linear systems, and that. They had this little edit studio in my school, but they didn't teach any classes on it. They stopped teaching it a few years before I got into high school. My sister took the class, my older sister, so I knew it existed.
Yeah.
So when I said I want to edit videos, they let me into that room, and the old teacher taught me how to do the stuff, and I would just do it I would do it on my own. So that kind of is what got me into it.
Yeah.
Just kind of editing and shooting, and I thought I wanted to be an editor. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to get into filmmaking.
They told you not to assemble edit, right? Like, don't assemble it. You'll ruin the whole thing.
You don't want to punch a hole in it. Yeah.
I did it both ways. I did assemble edits and I did insert edits. Yeah. And there's a reason for both. You'd still do those when you're working in Resolve or Premiere or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was like, when a guy I worked with, a mentor of mine, once told me there were no good old days. And it's kind of true. Like, you look back and it's like everything was harder in the past. So I did that kind of stuff.
Editing. It was terrible.
Yeah, but it was cool. I was able to get music and cut the stuff, and I made a 40-minute skateboard video.
Wow.
And what's crazy is that I made it thinking maybe 20 of my friends might watch this thing with me. And I lost my only copy of it in college. And I've always I know some of my friends somewhere is going to find the full tape, but what ended up happening was that I found a bunch of clips from that video on YouTube.
Crazy.
Nice.
Years later, I'm talking maybe 10 years ago, I found these clips, and some younger kid got some of the source footage from his neighbor, and he put them up on YouTube, and there's over 100,000 hits on this thing. And I'm like,
crazy.
If you would have told me in 1988
that
knowing what a computer was in 1988, like a
Right.
Commodore 64.
Right.
Like one day, the whole world is going to have these things and watch 100,000 people will
Right.
watch your
Yeah.
skateboard video is absolutely insane to me. Like we're definitely in a simulation. Like there's so many things in my life where I'm like, this just can't be real.
You
Yeah.
could have sold bootlegs on the streets, man.
Right.
You know?
Nobody who would have bought it. Like there were
I don't
20
know.
skateboarders in New York at the time. Like who
Yeah.
cares about this? So but now it's like, but very few people are actually shooting that time at the Brooklyn Bridge and the Brooklyn Banks, which are historic, and all these, a ton of footage of my friend Jeff Pang, who was the first professional skateboarder ever out of New York. It's like I was just shooting them. We were hanging out and get those footage. So anyway, I did that in high school, and then I got into San Diego State because that at the time was like the hotbed of skateboarding was San Diego.
Right.
So I was like, I'm moving to San Diego and I'm going to go skate. And San Diego State at the time was the #1 party school in the country. So this is where my priorities were. Like, I'm going to go to the party school and I'm going to skateboard. And then I got out there and I couldn't get into their film program. So it was called an impacted major at the time. So it was like you had to have good grades, and I had pretty poor grades coming out of high school.
Yeah.
I had like a 2.7 grade point average or something.
Nice. Me too.
So I went out there and basically just took whatever film classes I was allowed to take, which was essentially film theory and film history. So it was like watching a lot of movies and learning about how to make them, but not able to actually make any. There was no production classes I was allowed to take.
Yeah.
And
it's such a tease.
And I also wasn't I wasn't shooting much. I was just really enjoying college and partying and skateboarding. It was like I found myself just skateboarding more than ever and not caring about picking up a camera. I was just out there skateboarding. And one day a friend of mine that I skateboarded with, there were two friends of mine. One of them, they suddenly both got Macintoshes at the same time. And one of them was a graphic arts major. My friend Jeff Kelly, who just worked on a project with Matt Milstead and myself. He was the art director making the storyboards.
Nice.
But Jeff had a Macintosh and he was studying graphic design, and I saw what he was doing with Photoshop and Illustrator. And I was just like blown away that you could do this on a computer. This is 1994, I think.
Yeah.
And then another friend of mine, Carlos De La Fuente, he got a Mac Quadra computer with a video spigot thing that was able to capture the video into the computer and make postage size movies. So like he was able to edit like 160 by 120 movies. Pixels, like maybe 320 by 240 if he was lucky. And back then, like standard def was like 640 by 480, or if you got up to D1 professional resolution. Like I don't even know if D1 was a format back then in '94, but that was like
a film, or not it was a tape format for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know if you could put that on computer or not.
Yeah, but I don't know if I guess D1 was out in 1994. Digibeta I don't think was out yet. I think Digibeta was a few years later.
Probably not.
So I saw him getting these little movies in and editing it. And the funny thing was he told me he wanted to make 3D porn movies.
Nice.
And I was like, and in my mind, 3D was like red and blue glasses.
Right.
And I'm still to this day not quite sure what he was thinking. If it was like CG 3D or I don't know what he was thinking. Anyway, I saw what they were doing and I was like, this is amazing. I need to get one of these Macintoshes because I could get video in. And I remember like talking to some kids in my class, and they were in the program, so they were able to actually do production. They were like, those are a joke. You need an Avid, and you can't do that because he was using Premiere to get to edit.
Really? Wow.
And so this was Adobe Premiere 2.0. Like You know, it's probably version 20 now or something. It's
Yeah.
like, it was version 2, the second iteration of Premiere. And I told these guys in my class, I'm like, I'm going to get Adobe Premiere and I'm going to be able to edit. And they were like, you can't, that's a joke. It's a toy. You can't do that. And I was like, I'm going to prove these guys wrong. And that's kind of been like, that's been like my modus operandi through my whole career, is like, somebody would say, you can't do that because I don't have the big gear to do it. And I figure out a way to do it. And over time, it's like the next thing I know, it's like, oh, I've got an Avid or I've got a Flame, and I do have the big gear that I need. But that was like a turning point. So I saw that stuff and I was like, I need to get a Macintosh. And the Power PC Macintoshes just came out. And that Spigot thing came out with a new version that could pull in full 640 by 480 in thousands of colors, man. Like I could get thousands of colors, man. It was amazing. So I you know, my father had some money that I had, and he let me get this Macintosh. He was trying to talk me out of it, and he was in advertising, and he had Max at his ad agency, and he knew the world, what I was doing. He knew Avids, and he was like, Apple's going out of business. Why are you doing this? Like they're sinking, and Windows is coming out and it's hot, and what are you doing? And that was before Windows 95, and he was convinced the world was going Windows. And I remember having Thanksgiving with his family, with his sister, and I'm at the dinner table and everybody's telling me I'm an idiot for buying this computer because you're buying a technology that's dead. And I was like, you know what? I see a future, and I see my friend is making lowrider bike catalogs on his Macintosh. And it's amazing. And I actually found a letter recently that I wrote to my father explaining why I want this. And I don't think I ever sent it to him. And I was like, these are my dreams. And I know I know in my heart that I'm going to be able to succeed here. And until that point, I was kind of a screw up. So I don't, you know, I could see why he thought I was just going to waste some money. But I believe that I'm kind of on the spectrum, and when I focus on something, I focus on it. So like skateboarding was my world, and as soon as I got a Macintosh and I started loading skateboard footage into that Macintosh, it was like the board was like, wait a minute, this is my new passion. And it was crazy. So like I got that Spigot, I loaded in some footage, and I cut the very first skateboard video that I made in there, and it probably had like 38 different transitions in it. Right? It had everything.
Star wipes.
Star wipes, everything. And I was like, it blew me away that you could just do this stuff. And and that was it, man. And like that was the beginning of it all. So the Mac, I got a scanner with it. And the scanner came with Photoshop 2.5.
Nice.
And that didn't have layers. So I started like learning how to deal with Photoshop without layers. And then I got a free upgrade to 3.0 when that came out. And that gave you the layers. And it was like, I started realizing like I actually enjoy this more than editing. I enjoy graphic design more than editing. And at that point, I was in my third year of college, and I was like, I didn't have a major. I was undeclared, and I took every class I could take that I was allowed to take. So I applied at San Francisco State to their cinema department. And I moved because I heard that there was a thing called multimedia happening in San Francisco.
That was such a buzzword at the time, wasn't it?
It was such a buzzword, and I didn't know what it was. I just heard that it was happening up there. And I later realized, like, the tutorial I watched on how to use Premiere that came with it on CD-ROM was a Macromedia Director multimedia authoring thing. You know, it was like I was watching. I had seen it, but I didn't know what it was. And I moved up to San Francisco and got into the film department up there. And the beauty of their cinema department was that you could take any creative arts class and get credit towards your major.
That's cool. That's
so
very cool.
so I just kind of floated and like immediately jumped into a Super 8 class, shooting
Nice.
my own Super 8 movie.
Nice.
I jumped into a 16 millimeter class where we got to like put a team together and make a short film on 16 millimeter, and actually ended up working with this guy Aaron Meza on our short film. And Aaron became like a big skateboard videographer dude, and like one of the all-time most, shooting with Spike Jonze. And I was in class with him, and he was like, "Hey, I just got a gig with Spike Jonze," and became like Spike's main videographer guy for his skateboard company, Girl Skateboards.
That's cool.
So it was like shooting, and then I was able to like flip over and go take animation classes. So I got into traditional animation class where we were doing cell animation with flip books, and we had a little multi-plane camera system.
Cool.
And that was pretty hard because I was already starting to like dabble in animation and computers, and I was like constantly looking for undos as I'm drawing. So I was like drawing stop motion. I did a stop motion film on Super 8. I did, and then I got a job at the faculty computer lab in the library. So there was a program there called the Center for the Advancement of Teaching that was there to teach technology to the teachers.
All right.
And what was great was that they would bring in pros to teach the teachers like Photoshop. And I'd get to sit in on these classes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that's
like the real teachers that were teaching me stuff, like my traditional animation teacher was amazing. Like she came from Jan Emblin was her name. She came from the Canadian Film Board. I don't know if you guys are familiar with in the 60s, they were doing the hottest animation in the world, the 60s and 70s. The Canadian Film Board would just give these giant grants to create crazy animation projects, like the movie Walking. I don't know if you've ever seen that. There's an amazing documentary that everybody should see called Ryan.
Okay.
Ryan, and it's by Landreth, Chris Landreth. He was the original in-house animator at Alias Wavefront. So he was pushing when Maya came out, he was the guy in-house pushing it, and he'd win the Academy Awards every year for short films with what he was doing. And he made one called Ryan, which was about Ryan Larkin, who was the superstar genius of the Canadian Film Board. And he made a film called Walking that is, to this day, one of my favorite animations ever made. And so Jan worked at the Canadian Film Board. Chris Landreth made a documentary about Ryan Larkin inside of Maya. It was a CG documentary, and it's incredible.
What year was that?
It was probably 98, 99, 2000, somewhere around there. But he found Ryan Larkin disappeared off the face of the earth. Chris Landreth was walking to a conference, I think in Montreal, and he found him homeless on the street. He was schizophrenic.
What? No way.
And so he started interviewing him, and started showing him his old films. And it was when Maya Paint Effects was coming out, so his whole brain was open on the side of his skull, and all this Paint Effects stuff was happening.
Yeah.
Incredible film. It's my favorite.
I think I'm watching it. It's like 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's long. Yeah. It's amazing.
Gosh,
he won the Academy Award for this.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
So did it ring a
previous
bell?
Film.
Sorry, his previous film what?
His previous film was like the first time I'd ever seen CG hair. It's really crude, but he had CG hair, and it's amazing guy. Yeah.
What did he think of seeing his own stuff? Like, did he remember it? Do you know if he? You see his reactions, like just sparking in his brain, and they interview his ex-wife, and so each of these people have a different
stylization to their look, to the modeling, and I highly recommend it to anybody who's into animation, just because you need to know about his work that he did on walking, because it was all pose to pose. I mean, or straight ahead action animation, no pose to pose. The guy just started drawing, and the next thing you know, it's a guy walking, and it turns into this. It just starts morphing into all this crazy stuff going on, and it's incredible.
Is
So
this
anyway,
is this post
yeah,
Bingo
so
the Clowno or Bingo? You remember Bingo the Clowno?
he did Bingo the Clowno, so
Did
he was
he?
the director
Okay.
of Bingo the Clowno.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was before it was actually that was after Bingo, because Bingo was the first
Yeah.
Maya example, and they showed that at SIGGRAPH
Like 94
98, I think.
ish, or
No, I think it was 98.
that
It was
late?
98.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was there at it was in Orlando, and in the Electronic Theater was the main screening, and it that blew me away like no other CG I'd ever seen. The CG lighting in that, and seeing it in a big theater on the big screen, it might have even been like printed to film at that point, because it was before HD, I think, and it was absolutely incredible. So yeah, Chris Landreth, top dog.
I'll put that link in the show
anyway,
notes too.
Yeah.
Definitely put those links. So I was learning traditional animation. The stuff I was learning in class in computer graphics or anything, the teachers really didn't know anything at that point.
Right.
There wasn't much out there to really teach about After Effects or anything. And I got this job at the faculty training lab. So I was getting trained on how to use the software. And I remember they came in to train us on Windows 95 is coming out. It's going to be a big new thing. And at the time, like, all the heavy CG work was done on Silicon Graphics workstations on IRIX. You know, so it was like you either had those big $50,000 or more computers running $30,000 software, or you were down on a Macintosh trying to find the cheap software.
Right.
And when I got to that lab, there was a guy working there, and he like gave me a CD-ROM full of cracked software, and
Like
on
you
there
do.
was
Yep.
on there was Cosa After Effects 2.0, and so the second version of After Effects, and Electric Image, which at the time was the professional 3D application to use on the Macintosh.
Yes.
Okay.
Which
So the
that's what
evolution
it
there
is.
is Paul Babb.
That's
Paul
what it
Babb
is.
was the
That's what
product
it is.
marketing manager
That's
for
what it
Electric
is.
Image, and he brought Cinema over from Germany. It was an Amiga tool.
Right.
Okay.
And the first 3 people or so that he gave it to, I was one of those people.
Wow.
And I'll explain how that happened in a second. So anyway, we were I was in this lab, and the beauty was, besides getting the education on how to use all these tools, that lab had a $50,000 a semester budget, whereas the student lab, all the student labs had 15,000 combined, and we would get 50,000, 50,
Jeez.
for the teachers, which is so screwed up in my opinion.
Yeah.
And what was even more, and that's when I learned about like budgets and bureaucracy.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
my boss would come to me and be like, "Hey, you need to buy some. Here's $50,000. Spend it. If we don't spend it this semester, we don't get it next semester."
Jeez.
So so back then in 1995, like if you wanted to buy stuff, there was no internet. Like that lab is the place where I first saw Netscape and the World Wide Web.
Right.
Before that, it was like America Online and Prodigy and these services that I would see, but I had never seen the web. So like if you wanted to get software or hardware, you'd get these catalogs in the mail, these like Mac Mall catalog, Computerware catalogs, and my boss just hands me these catalogs, and she's like, "Spend $50,000." So
did you like have to like did you call anyone and be like, "Hey, tell me more about your products," or you just like,
Did you already
okay,
know
this is
what you
cool,
wanted?
I'm gonna order this?
so I would like hear about stuff in like Macworld magazine and stuff, and the so I would be like, I want a video capture. I want like the high end video capture that I couldn't afford. So I bought like these Target 2000 cards and these.
Nice.
Oh,
I bought
man.
these, so I could hook up computers, and I bought Mackie mixing boards, and I bought microphones and After Effects and all the stuff. And what was crazy was that when I quit, I had just bought a whole batch of stuff for the next semester. And I later went back to say hi, and it was all sitting in boxes in the closet. Nobody knew.
Yeah, nobody knew what to do with them. Yeah. That's how my
But
friends
the
got a hold of
teacher-
copies of 3D Max back in the day. The
Yeah.
teachers had no idea what it was. It was just sitting in the closet.
What was sad is they should have then just like taken them over to the students to give the students access to this stuff.
Right.
But
Yeah.
instead, they sat in the closet so she could get her next semester of budget.
That's so
which
messed
is
up.
just
Or if you
insane.
have that kind of money as a teacher, you get that stuff and you have time to dig into it and like, but yeah, I had the same situation when I was going to classes. It was multimedia class, and the teachers had no idea what to teach.
Yeah. Oh,
You
that was
know?
my
Yeah.
that
That
was my
software just
entire
goes to waste.
college at the Art Institute.
Yeah.
It's like all the teachers were former students who couldn't get actual jobs, so they came back to teach.
Did you
Right.
did you get a Bernoulli?
I'd have my 3D Bernoulli drive.
Yeah, Bernoulli drive. Yeah.
I never had one, but my friend Jeff, who was the graphic designer, he had one. We would use SideQuest drives in class, which were similar.
Yeah.
And what was great, what was funny was those SideQuest drives. They were like big, giant spinning hard drives that you would slide into these cartridges, and you would have to hit a button so the hard drive would spin down, and then you would slide a lever and it would pop out. And when working at that lab, I remember like people would slide the lever before it would slide down, and the cartridge would fly across the room. And it would ruin the cartridge, and they were $80 for like 88 megabytes, I think.
Jeez.
So it was like you're spending a fortune on these things. So anyway, we in that class, the dude who gave me the cracked software was like, "Hey, there's a 3D animation class in the grad school, a master's class." And he's like, "I'm going to apply." And we were both undergrad. So we like put together a little demo reel of like all the crap that we were doing, and went in and we applied for a grad school class, and we both got in.
Nice.
That's cool.
So we're in this grad school class, and the teacher was on a sabbatical for like 3 years or something, and just came back to teach this class.
Okay.
So there was a 3-year gap in what she knew. And when she was teaching prior, she was teaching the school had SGIs to teach wavefront.
Okay.
Which back then there were 3 professional 3D programs. There was Alias Power Animator, there was Wavefront Explorer, and there was Softimage.
Okay.
Those were the 3 companies. And like the dinosaurs on Jurassic Park were done in Softimage.
Right.
When you needed to create particle systems, you would use Wavefront. That had the best particles. Power Animator was, I'm not even sure where that was being used.
Yeah.
And then there was also actually the other big one was
Infinity.
Side Effects.
Oh.
No, I'm talking professional. So then there was
okay.
Prisms, which was Side Effects. So that was the precursor to Houdini.
Wow.
And Prisms was used for heavy particles. Like, I remember reading about it on the movie True Lies. The jet engines were done by Digital Domain, was a heavy Prisms place.
Okay.
Isn't there some
but
story
all
like the
that-
Houdini guy and his brother or someone split off? And am I thinking of a different piece of software?
No, yeah, one of them decided to move into Houdini. The other one decided to move into Touch Designer. You know?
Oh, that's right.
Well,
that's right.
Yeah.
Touch Designer was a fork of Houdini.
Yeah.
They forked it out of there.
Yeah.
That was
Because they wanted to
So-
focus more
so-
on real time on Touch
Yeah.
Designer. Yeah.
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 Yeah, there's a lot of similarity. I remember when that came out, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But the all of that software was expensive. I'm talking like to get a full package of Wavefront, I think was like $70,000, 70. Because you had to buy all these different modules for it. And
Yeah.
Softimage was like $35,000, and and you needed a SGI that would cost you $25,000 to $50,000 to run it on. So
And they didn't have
so
Blender
our
because
school,
Blender's free.
no, and then on the lower end you
It's
had
free?
stuff like you had like the Amiga with the Amiga ran Lightwave. And then you had like the Macintosh was running Electric Image, or you could go low end with like Infinity or Strata Studio Pro. And then on Windows you had 3D Studio.
Okay.
But like and that was just starting because Windows didn't have Windows. That was when Windows NT was just coming out. So I remember being in this class and seeing a video of a company called Colossal Pictures that I always wanted to work for. They were the baddest ass animation studio in San Francisco. They did all the original MTV bumpers, Beavis and Butthead. They did Aeon Flux.
Nice. Yeah.
And they specialized in blendo animation, they called it. They mixed stop motion with CG, with cell animation, any type of animation, all mixed together. They're amazing. And there was a Softimage videotape came out explaining how they were moving to Windows. And because Microsoft acquired Softimage at that point. Right. So anyway, my class, she was teaching Wavefront, and they were making shaders on Next cubes. They had a Next cube in the room.
Yeah.
To make RenderMan shaders. And
so let's talk about like how where that went and what got you into your business now. Like how did that take you from there to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so that class, I had to interview somebody in the industry for that class. And like I was saying at the time, you couldn't just buy software. Like where would you get After Effects or Electric Image? There was no internet at the time to order it online. They wouldn't sell that high-end software in the Mac Mall catalog where you're buying Word. So I found that there was a local place in town that you would go to buy it. They were called value-added resellers. So there was an architectural firm that used Electric Image, and they sold Electric Image and After Effects. And if you wanted to buy a different program, you'd have to track down like, oh, these guys sell this 3D program above the ice cream shop in North Beach, and you'd go there and buy that software. So the place that sold After Effects and Electric Image would do user groups. And I went over there, went to a user group, and there would be like 10 guys gathered, and that was it. There was like 10 people in all of San Francisco who used After Effects. And one of these guys that came and presented there came to my class, and I got to meet him, and he showed me After Effects actually for the first time. His name is Fred Lewis, and he now works full-time for me. But I ended up getting an internship at this place that was doing the user groups. And that internship, we were making CD-ROMs to explain how to use the internet. So they would teach you what FTP was, Usenet, which was like, internet relay chat, it was like predecessor to chat rooms.
IRC, yeah.
So IRC, yep.
Yeah.
So we were making the CD-ROM, and I was doing like Photoshop prep work and doing some little bit of After Effects work there. And a guy that was freelancing there, and it was first job ever, he kept telling me what a joke that place was. And he's like, my brother-in-law works at this badass place in Cupertino. I'm going to get a job there, and this place is a joke. And he left. And then like 6 months later, he called me up and said, hey, there's a job opening here at this place, CKS. And I was still in school. I was in my 5th year of school. My father was paying for it. I really had no end in sight because I was just taking classes I was interested in. So I was missing a lot of requirements. And I went down to this place, CKS, for an interview, and they wanted me to work on Prudential Life Insurance's very first website.
Okay.
So this office had like 100 artists working in it, and they had like Aeron chairs. It was all the toys were on the desks, and there was this, it was like walking into the Starship Enterprise, and like, you know, you see like Pixar at the time on these documentaries. It was like, whoa, there's the toys and there's the cool people. And so I went in for this interview, and they offered me a job to do like Photoshop prep work for the Prudential Life Insurance website. And at the time, they had just finished the very first United Airlines website. They did the Pixar website. The place was owned by the guy who started Apple France. His father started National Semiconductor. It was like Silicon Valley in the .com insanity. This is, 1996.
Yeah.
So they gave me this job offer to do that, and I was like, hey, I can't quit school. My father will kill me. I can't take this job. And I went back to school, and I was sitting in a humanities class wanting to kill myself that I didn't get this job, and I was bored as hell. And 3 weeks later, my pager rang. Like I had a pager.
Yeah,
this is like before cell phones. And I ran to a payphone, and it was them again. And they were like, hey, you were totally overqualified for that job, and we want you to come down and do 3D animation work on a project for Apple.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, I will be there in 1 hour. I ran out of class, jumped in my car, drove to Cupertino, and never went back to school. I never talked to a guidance counselor. I failed on my classes, and I dropped out.
Crazy.
So the moral of the story is everybody drop out of school.
Right?
No, just kidding. Yeah.
After that agency I worked at, I got a gig working at a company called Puffin Designs. I was beta testing their software.
Yeah.
And that software was made by Scott Squires, who invented the film scanner. He was an effects supervisor at ILM on Star Wars Episode 1, Dragonheart, The Mask. He owned the company that did the work for Blade Runner. He was Douglas Trumbull's assistant on Close Encounters.
Cool.
So I went to work for him, and he was bringing software that him and John Knoll were making to the market. So those guys were building tools at ILM. Puffin Designs took them and started selling them. So
So tell
anyway,
us.
I was working there, gave a demo to these guys at Phoenix Editorial, and they were doing top editorial company in San Francisco, doing TV commercials for all the big .com players at the time. So we were doing the original Yahoo commercials, Do Yahoo, all that stuff. And I eventually, I was freelancing for those guys, and they made me a deal where they said, hey, if you work out of our office all the time, we'll give you free office space. And in exchange, we'll actually give you $25 an hour to just sit here in case anything pops up on our TV commercials. We just want you to be here. And then when you do real work, we'll pay you your rate.
That's cool.
So they had a smoke there. They had a discreet smoke, and they had Avids, and we're doing big TV commercials. They had the digibetas. They had all this equipment there. So I did that. Worked on a ton of TV commercials with those guys. And then one day I ended up at an auction at a big post house in town, and I won I won the auction on their flame. So I bought a flame for $1,800, and this is back when it cost $180,000 for the software.
Yeah.
And you were able to bill out like $800 an hour for this machine. So I figured out how to use it, and we had the clients who are already coming in from the ad agencies to work in the smoke. So we were able to basically say, instead of having one discrete room, we have two. So immediately clients were coming into my room, and I started like making a bunch of money off this stuff. So that company, Phoenix Editorial, said, "Hey, how about we make you a partner?" So I became a business partner in Phoenix Editorial, and I sold them the Flame base. I gave them the Flame basically in exchange for the stock in their company.
Gotcha.
So I did that, worked on TV commercials with those guys for about 6 years. And I was getting sick of just doing like end tags and a lot of like invisible compositing. We did some Super Bowl spots, which was cool. Made a dolphin talk for Yahoo and a bunch of like warping in Flame and stuff like that. And I decided that I really wanted to get away from commercials and working with ad agencies and back to what we were doing at CKS, which is working directly for the client, creating motion graphics. And so instead of doing like a 5-second end tag, I could get to do a 90-second motion graphics piece. So we split off a division called Bonfire Labs, and that became focused on direct to client, while Phoenix Editorial continued to work with ad agencies on editing projects. So started to hook up with old friends at companies like Adobe and Apple and who else? Salesforce. We would do a lot of work for all the tech companies in the Bay Area. Microsoft, Facebook when they started. I was working with Facebook when they were operating off the Stanford campus. So when they came out with their timeline, I directed a piece about the timeline, and that led to us shooting live action stuff. So I would direct those live action projects. We would go up to the old ILM facilities and do motion control shoots up at Kerner. And after 12 years with those guys, I had a blow up with my partners there, and just decided I'm going to reboot as Swordfish. And started from scratch.
Wow. How long has Swordfish been around?
Yeah, what year was that?
We're about to hit 10 years next month.
Nice.
So as far as startup and everything for that, did you how did you go about funding it and getting
clients and stuff? Were you able to parlay some of the clients from the previous job and be like, "Hey, I'm doing my own thing. Come to me now"?
Well, that was the idea.
Yeah.
Until I learned that I signed a non-compete agreement with my old partners that I never realized. Yeah, there was a moment where a new contract came in, and I was so busy, I finally just signed everything, not realizing that I signed my life away. So that had an 18-month non-compete agreement with any client that we had pursued or worked with.
Oh, that's rough.
So, which was kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Because there were names on that list that I had never talked to. So 87 clients, I was told I can't touch for 18 months. So the biggest client I had in my previous shop at that time was Sony. And about 2 years earlier, when the 2008 recession hit, we hooked up with Sony to help create the motion patterns and transitions for their very first Android products.
Okay.
So we got away from doing marketing work and into the UX side. And what that taught me was that companies, when a recession hits, the first thing they do is they stop marketing. But what they do is they start putting their money into R&D so that they have new products. When the recession ends, they have something new to market. So that's been a big part of what I've been doing ever since. I try to do motion for UX and motion for marketing, because you're then like covering both bases.
Interesting.
So that Sony work we were doing to make their first Android phone, and at the time I was working on the animated wallpaper for the PlayStation 4, which we built in Houdini as a procedural animation.
That's cool.
Which we then coded in OpenGL to run on the PlayStation in real time.
Wow. That's super cool.
So yeah, so Sony told me that they would give me the contract, and that was able to be used as leverage with my old business partners to say, hey, I'll take less money for you guys to buy me out in exchange of carving out Sony. So I built Swordfish with a $800,000 a year retainer. We were on retainer with those guys.
It's a pretty nice retainer.
So I had the client, I had the work. I used my 401k to get through the legal process and to get an office and everything I needed to get going. And I just started. I actually started out of my house where it was like me and a laptop, and then I bought one Mac Pro on Craigslist.
Oh, that's funny.
The old cheese grater towers.
And
then then we had to do more rendering, so it was like, okay, I'll buy another cheese grater. So I ended up buying like 50 of these cheese graters over time, for like $1,200 a pop. And then we also, at the time, cloud rendering was starting to take off. And I was friends with the guys who made Zinc Render, which got sold to Google.
Yeah.
So we were early beta testers of Zinc, and so I was able to be in my house crunching mental ray stuff in the Amazon cloud.
Crazy.
So it was like, get another job, bring in another guy, get another job, bring in a guy, and just build the company totally organically. And that's how it was built.
Did you have were you handling all like the sales or anything like that, like reaching out to different clients, or did you have to hire on someone specifically to do that,
It was started basically with my contacts. And at my previous company, I was driving sales anyway.
Okay.
So I would be on LinkedIn hunting for people that I knew over my, course of my industry, or years in the industry, and just, I tend to keep clients for a long time. My biggest client right now, I've been working with for 25 years.
Wow.
And I just try not to screw up.
Yeah.
Deliver and don't screw up.
Yeah.
How do you handle remote work and stuff?
To that sense, I have brought in salespeople twice, and both times it didn't work out.
Interesting.
How do you handle doing like the remote work and things with people?
Yeah, so I've been working remotely for a long time. So as a business owner who's also on the box, I've been a workaholic my entire career. It's something I'm trying to not do anymore. It's not good. So, I started using Apple Remote Desktop probably 15 years ago. So I would be sitting at home on my laptop and remoting into a workstation and shooting off renders at the office. So I was used to kind of working that way. And then when COVID hit, we broke early because we were working with tech companies who got out, a month before the city said stop.
Yeah.
So we saw the writing on the wall, started getting everything set up for everybody to do what I had been doing and use VPNs, remote desktop, team viewer. And, we were able to get everybody home early, do a test. We came back to the office for a few more days, and then we were like, okay, let's break. Everybody went home. And that's how we work. So everybody's using computers at home as dumb terminals. We're just using keyboards and monitors.
Yeah.
And you're actually working on a computer at our office. And all of our footage, all the source footage is living on our SAN. When you hit render, it shoots it off to all the computers at the office. So it's kind of this like reverse cloud. We just did a big job, and Matt was on it for about 4 months.
Yeah.
And he was working from Texas, and
yeah. One of the things that I really what I really like about the way you guys work, and this is something that, Dave and I are currently working on a really big project, and I was telling one of our freelancers the other day, I was like, man, I wish I had this set up the same way Swordfish does, Because what's great is y'all, with the project that we worked on, it was like, you'd have your templated one, but then you guys built this custom code, or custom JavaScript or whatever, to where it's like, okay, no, I'm working on this one, and it would automatically rename everything and set it all up. And anytime we sent it to the cloud, you guys had this custom, or not to the cloud, to the render farm, you had this custom thing that would automatically save the project at what point you sent it to the render farm, and then would render everything out. It was a very cool way to work.
Yeah, I've got some smart people who work for me who've worked at big studios. So I've never worked at big studios. I've been fortunate to kind of been able to run my own business for the last 20 years. But the person who set up our render farm came from ILM, where he was a creature supervisor, right brain, left brain genius, one of the smartest guys I know. And, he knows Python. He just came in and built this whole render farm for us. So we use Pixar's Tractor as the farm.
Okay.
But then all the submit scripts that we build are our own Python or JavaScript that we'll make for After Effects or Cinema 4D or for Houdini. If we need to sync fonts, all of that happens through the render farm. If we need to compress movies, it happens through the render farms. So a lot of the parts of our system are standard things that happen in big studios. So when you submit a job from Cinema 4D or After Effects in our studio, it'll always render a duplicate of your scene file that gets stored next to the files that get rendered.
Yeah.
So that way, if you accidentally overrode your file, and in 2 weeks I say, hey, client actually wants to go back to this version of the movie that they saw.
Yeah.
That scene file is sitting right next to that movie as a backup.
Right. Yeah, so smart.
And that's a common way that all render farms work in big studios.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you tried Parsec?
But what we've looked at all these different alternatives to TeamViewer, and in general, everything's just kind of working for us. There's some weird oddities with Cinema, I think, that sometimes happens, but I think we figured all the bugs out.
Yeah. My biggest thing with a lot of remote software is the fact that it's hard to control certain things like rotation and things in Cinema, and Parsec has been so solid. You forget that you are even working on a remote machine sometimes with that. It's so solid. I'm loving
Except
Parsec.
They don't have it for the Mac. You can't control the Mac.
I forgot about
I
that.
think they do now. I think they do.
Oh, they do.
Do they?
They have it.
Yeah, I think they just came out.
I thought that you could do it. Well, unless this is recent. I downloaded it. I got it installed, and then it's like, oh, you can only view with this. You can't actually control. And I was like, oh, okay.
Maybe
But it's a great app.
I mean, we find that Apple Remote Desktop, if you're going Mac to Mac, is super solid.
Right.
And then something happened where I think people were like cross-platforming. TeamViewer was having some issues.
Yeah.
And if you just stay on the same platform, it was better. But it's those type of rotation things that I hear people freaking out about.
Yeah.
Yeah. When
But the beauty too is like we started building more and more tools for COVID. And my favorite thing that we did is in the middle of the project I was working on, Matt, we added Slack notifications from the render farm.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That was one of my favorite things. It's like you would submit a job and then you would automatically get the update in Slack saying, hey, this job is done. Like that was way cool. Like, cause you could walk away from your desk and as long as you've got the notifications on your phone, it's like, okay, now I know it's done, Yeah,
it was great because that project we delivered 210 shots, I think it was. And I had probably 15 artists working all over the world, and I was creative directing everybody. And so we had 205 Slack channels for each shot.
Gosh.
And that's how we were communicating with each artist.
Oh, that's funny.
So somebody's render would get done, my Apple Watch would buzz, and I'd be able to just kind of like go and check out that render. And I think after you finish, Matt, we actually added now, like when the renderer comes in, it gives you the hyperlink, so you can just click the hyperlink, and it pulls that movie right up.
That's
which is
nice.
great.
Yeah. See, innovative stuff like that in order to keep your workflow, smooth.
Especially
that was
working
one thing that I
involved.
really appreciated about working with y'all. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, that's where I think that's one of my strong points of my own personal part of this process is like, it's all about process and systems. It's like I like to start a job, figure out how to put a good process in. How's this pipeline going to work? And if we need any new tools, I've got Brendan Bowles to go in and just make stuff.
Yeah.
And Brendan and I go way back to that user group I was talking about in 1996. He was at Berkeley, a kid, and he would show up to this user group, and there was like 10 nerds sitting in a room, and we were the entire Mograph community, visual, anybody using After Effects or Electric Image was coming to this user group.
Yeah.
And there was like 10 of us. And Brendan was one of them. He then went off to the orphanage and made a lot of the tools at the orphanage. And one of those tools that he made was the OpenEXR plugins for After Effects.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
so then
that's crazy.
he sold those to Adobe, or he licenses those to Adobe.
Yeah.
So he's Fnordware, the company Fnord. So like, we just did Cryptomats for After Effects. So like Adobe hired us to make the Cryptomats for After Effects.
That's cool.
Because Brendan's the guy, he can make them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually that's another thing I'd like to talk about. So we started building these tools in-house, and we started selling them as mechajiki.com. So we made a program called Render Garden, which does it makes
wow, yeah, y'all are
farm.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's all Brendan.
That's crazy. Huh. So while we were working on this project together, I know you had brought in a bunch, you were adding to the farm, and you were adding these the Mac Mini, Mac the M1, chips and stuff like that. I'd love to hear your opinion on the new Mac Studio,
Yeah, I love it. I've been a Mac guy forever, and started using PCs when GPUs started coming out.
Right.
So before GPUs, we would do all of our photorealistic product renderings in Maya using V-Ray. And once Octane came around, it was like, whoa, look at this stuff. It's fast. And Redshift was really the change for us. We were very early Redshift users, because the guy at our office, a former employee, he didn't like Octane, and he's like, this Redshift thing is pretty damn badass. And he came from Sony ImageWorks and helped make V-Ray, not V-Ray, helped make Arnold. So we started getting when the GPU started coming out, we started putting 1080 ties into our Mac Pro towers, and running one 1080 tie with Redshift or Octane. And then we realized like that's a hack, and the OSs were breaking. So we started putting those cards in the PCs, and over time, we were running like 80% of our 3D on Windows and 20% on Mac. But all the After Effects work we would do on the Macintosh, because there was no difference. We would run After Effects on the latest HP Xeon machines that we would buy, and there was no difference between running them there or a cheese grater.
Yeah.
Because they weren't multi-threaded, and the rendering just sucked in After Effects.
Yeah.
So when the M1s came out, we tested it, and it was like 3 times faster than the cheese grater for After Effects. And I've been a long time After Effects beta tester. I know their engineers, and I was told by one of their engineers that, After Effects is a 25-year-old program, 30-year-old program now. It had the foundation hasn't really changed. It's very old.
Mm-hmm.
And if Intel or any chip manufacturer came to them and said, what would the ideal chip architecture be for the crappy way that After Effects works? It would be the M1. The way that it's built is perfectly made for After Effects.
Mm-hmm.
So I tested it. I was blown away. And I was like, you know what? You know, that job came in. We needed a lot of rendering power. I needed a lot of artists to be working on stuff. So I bought 40 of those M1 computers.
My gosh.
Yeah.
And just loaded them up with 16 gigs of RAM. And they work amazingly well. The problem with them is the RAM limitation. And the RAM limitation is never causing us to like crash the program or anything. It's just limiting the duration of our RAM previews.
Right. Yeah.
And the project that we had you on those were essentially 6K renders. You know, they were 4K by 4K square. So we would be able to cache like, you know, a certain amount of time in RAM, and then you're stuck. So you'd have to work quarter res, and you still couldn't cache the entire sequence at quarter res. So to me, what I really needed was a Mac Mini using the exact same chip that I could put more RAM in. And that's what the new Studio is giving us.
Yeah.
So I have one coming any day now that is the lowest end model was 64 gigs of RAM. That cost $2,500.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the perfect After Effects machine because it's a faster chip than what we currently have in the minis. And it has the 64 gigs of RAM. I don't need a fast GPU for After Effects. We have PCs loaded with triple 2080 Ti's. That's what's giving our 3D power. So that's my attitude on these new machines. They're awesome, and they're only going to get better.
Yeah.
I truly believe that in 5 years they could overtake NVIDIA.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, while I was working remotely on those, you know, the Mac Minis and stuff like that, you had talked so much about the M1 Max and that was my first experience with them. And I kept saying, you know, I really enjoyed working on it. And I was like, man, if they just make like a 64 gig one or like a, you know, whatever, I would buy that and I would make that my main machine, you know. And then they literally announced the Mac Studio, but then the price is a bit outside of my comfort zone for it, you know. But yeah, they look like crazy.
It's pretty crazy because, like, you know, I've got an office that is, you know, it costs $15,000 a month to rent an office right now, and no one's there.
Yeah.
You know, there's 25 desks, 2 edit suites, and there's literally an office manager there just to reboot computers.
That's funny.
Right.
And it's sad. It's weird. I'm paying a lot of money. And as I mentioned earlier, I just went into contract on a new house. And that new house has a nice big office space with fiber internet. And I'm like, why couldn't I run this all out of my house? And if everything was running on minis or those studios, they draw no power. They don't give off any heat.
Yeah.
If I have to put 25 PC towers into my house, I need to buy air conditioning and my bills go up.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of dreaming of a day where I could just kind of do, you know, if they could get a GPU fast enough for us to run cinema.
Yeah.
What do you do? Where do you think you're going now as far as having a studio space? Are you bringing people back in, or are you going to kind of cut that down?
I think we're staying home.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure your employees
we have
love
the
that.
office. If anybody wants to get out of the house, come to the office and get away from the kids for the day.
Right.
But, you know, I want everybody, ideally, I would love everybody to come once a month. You know, we're going to try to say like the last Friday of every month, everybody try to come to the office and work, and we're going to go out for a big lunch.
Yeah.
And do some, you know, that's the biggest thing I miss is just the lunch table, the water cooler talk. We just don't have it anymore. And you know, we've even gotten to a point where Anthony Abbott, who was on your show, he just moved. He took off and moved out of state.
Yeah.
So that's my first employee to move out of state, and which is a whole nother thing for a
Yeah.
business owner to figure out how do you deal with payroll taxes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. I meant to ask this earlier. Y'all work, mostly in C4D, After Effects, and Houdini, right? At what point did you move over from like Flame into C4D? Of all softwares.
Yeah. So I used the Flame because I bought it at an auction. And before I used a Flame, I was the guy who was going around telling the whole world, you don't need a Flame. Like, you could use a combination of After Effects, Commotion, and Electric Image, and you've got a Flame. And you can carry it in a backpack, and you don't have to be stuck on a giant refrigerator-sized computer. Right. But then once I got that Flame at that auction, suddenly I told all my clients, no, you have to do this on a Flame.
Right.
Because it's $800 an hour,
right.
and I just bought a house, so I need the money.
Right.
So the reality is, like, I came from that world, and as I was mentioning earlier, when I was in where I interned was the local place to buy Electric Image in San Francisco. It was an architectural firm, and I started interning there, and they were doing CD-ROMs, and I met the guys from Electric Image there. And I started becoming a demo artist for them at places like SIGGRAPH. So I would go down to SIGGRAPH, or they'd call and say, hey, there's an event happening in the Bay Area. Can you drive over there and give a demo? And the product marketing manager was Paul Babb.
Yeah.
So I was Paul's demo kid. I owe Paul a lot in my, I'm sure there's a million other kids right now, or guys saying that. When I was a kid, Paul helped me because he's a great dude. He's still, I consider Paul one of the greatest guys who's really helped my career.
100%.
And one day he quit, and then a few months later he came to San Francisco and had a meeting at the same place, the same architectural firm. And he was like, hey, I'm bringing this tool from Germany to America, and you should check it out. And I was all in on Electric Image at the time, and I looked at it, and it was weird to me because the camera view was on the top left, and I was used to the camera view on the top right, and you couldn't switch it at that point. And that one reason kept me from using it. I was like, that just bugged me.
That's funny.
And back then, like, 3D software was like tribes, man. It was like you're a 3D studio guy, you're an Electric Image guy, you're a lightweight guy, and there probably were like brawls at NAB over this crap. So I was an Electric Image guy, and Maya had just come out, or was about to come out, and I was eyeing Maya as if I'm going to spend time to invest in a new software, it's going to be Maya, and that's what I did. So I jumped into the Maya world, and my company was basically Maya and After Effects. And I was an early user of Nuke. When Nuke first became commercial, I saw that, and I was like, I need that because that's like a Flame. Yeah. I got a Flame because I knew everybody was making money on it, right?
Right.
You can make a lot of money using Flame. And when I was working at Puffin Designs, I was managing John Knoll's software, and I ported Knoll Light Factory to Flame.
That's funny.
Puffin Designs got acquired by Pinnacle Systems, which became Avid. It became part of Avid. And they wanted nothing to do with SGI and Flame plugins. So they didn't want the tools that I ported. So I went to John Knoll and I said, hey, can I take over your Flame plugins? Because I found out that if you're a Flame plugin developer, you get a free copy of Flame software. Or Flint at the time. It was their low-end version of Flint. So, like, I bought an SGI, a used SGI, a little O2 toaster-looking thing that I could run Flint on. And I started learning how to use the Flame. And then I got to this auction, and I bought the machine for $1,800, like a full-blown Flame.
Yeah.
Started making all this money. Then we were still using Maya mostly, and I started bringing in some freelancers who use Cinema 4D. And it
Mhm.
was like, okay, this is kind of cool because you could do the Mograph stuff.
Yeah.
And we just looked at it like it's just for Mograph. If you need to do cloners and that sort of stuff,
Mhm.
we would use Cinema 4D for that with a freelancer. And
Mhm.
we would do our photoreal renderings in Maya with Mental Ray and then V-Ray. We were early V-Ray users.
Mhm.
So over time, more of our guys just started using Cinema. And then when I started Swordfish, I brought in a guy named Dean Foster, who I freelanced at my old shop, Bonfire.
I love
And
Dean.
Dean is a monster.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So I think Dean did 25% of those shots himself out of the
I know.
210.
Yeah.
He is the fastest cinema guy I've ever seen, and it's because he's been doing 3D for like 40 years.
Yeah.
So he started on Symbolics in the 80s and then was a flame demo artist in the early 90s and Sony ImageWorks on the movie Contact. And then he got recruited by ILM and learned Maya very early. He was at Pixar on Cars and Monsters, Inc.
Cool.
He left Pixar and ended up at Goodby Silverstein and Partners advertising agency. And at that time, they had like $2 billion worth of accounts and built their own in-house post department that had like 50 guys in there. And they literally sucked up every great freelancer in the Bay Area to just sit there. So when their clients would walk in, they're like, there's our CG team. Even though they would go hire the big shops in LA to do the final spots. It was crazy. So Dean is sitting there at Goodby doing nothing and decided I'm going to learn the Cinema 4D thing. And once he learned Cinema 4D, he never wanted to touch Maya again. And he hates Maya. He despises it. So
that's funny.
He started with me and he just wanted to use Cinema. And it was like, okay, this is what we're going to use. And then it was like, over time, the quality of Cinema got better and better. And we started using some V-Ray for Cinema 4D. But we would still do our product renderings in Maya with V-Ray. And then once the GPU happened, that's where it all switched.
Right.
And now it was like, we're going to do photoreal product renders in Cinema, and we're going to do Mograph in Cinema, and we're going to do our camera maps in Cinema. And it basically became everything for us except for character animation. And our character animation is still done in Maya. And I've got full-time Jen Emberly as our lead character animator. Jen was the animation director at ILM for 12 years or so. She animated dinosaurs, Terminators, everything. She's the best animator I've ever worked with by far.
How do you find some of these amazingly talented people? You know, is the Bay Area just such a tight knit group of people? You know, or are you specifically seeking them out?
It's tight knit, but it's very segregated.
Uh-huh.
So like the film people don't know the Mograph people. Like I remember having lunch with a friend who owned Atomic Fiction visual effects studio, and he was like, man, we got this job and everybody's telling us we should use Cinema 4D, but we can't find any of those artists. And I'm like, dude, I could find you 20 cinema guys right now.
Right.
I can't find any Houdini guys or Nuke guys. And he's like, I've got 30 of those all around, man. It's like we're out of the world. So when I started Swordfish, I brought in my friend Mauricio, who is the right brain, left brain genius I talked about earlier, who did all of our early Python coding. So he was directing projects for me, creative directing, writing scripts, and then at the same time, he's writing Python. And he knew everybody from the ILM world because he was a superstar creature supervisor at ILM, and he was the CG supervisor at the orphanage.
Yeah.
So he's how I found all these people like Jen Emberly that I never would have had relationships with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we got people like Jen. I have Fred Lewis, who's full-time TD to rig characters, and then Jen will animate them.
Mm-hmm.
Once the animation's done, we alembic it all over to cinema to get the final shot done. And then I've always been a huge fan of Houdini, like I said, all the way back to like 1999 when they came out with the program.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a friend from college who was using prisms.
Mm-hmm.
At a studio he worked at. They were doing broadcast design, like the opening for the Wonderful World of Disney, like flying through the Magic Castle and all the pixie dust is flying around with Tinkerbell. All of that was done in prisms. And when Houdini came out, he started using Houdini for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they shifted that whole company to Maya when Maya came out. So Mauricio, who did all the Python for me, he was using all this proprietary destruction software and simulation software at ILM. He went to the orphanage and had to use 3D Studio Max there and hated it. So he brought Houdini into the orphanage and started to learn Houdini and was like the first guy in the Bay Area to use Houdini. So he started working for me. I bought a Houdini license at my old company, probably around 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And I started learning Houdini myself. But I quickly realized, like, I don't have that left part of my brain to figure out Houdini.
Yeah.
Right.
But I would see what was done with it by companies like Motion Theory in LA or PSYOP. There were these companies where the particle work and the dynamics were just on another level. And I would, like, start studying the credits and find out, like, oh, that guy did it. I'd look at his website and be like, oh, he's a Houdini guy.
Uh-huh.
So I've been wanting to get Houdini into our motion graphics pipeline since probably 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I got Mauricio involved with Swordfish when I started it, and we got Houdini licenses for like our first job, which was the animated wallpapers for the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
What I found was that I can never, even Mauricio, who is this genius, he's not a designer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very hard to find a designer who could use Houdini.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of Anthony Abbott's that he went to college with was at Pixar and got laid off. They laid off their Houdini department after a show ended, after Finding Dory.
Interesting.
And that guy was Dan Clark, and he came in and freelanced for me on one job. And the first day he was on this job, he was doing splashing water. And at the end of the day, he had it rendered in Redshift. And it was beautiful. Like, he was the first guy I had ever seen who could design in Houdini and write and do the whole thing as Vex code.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
And it was like, who is this guy? And then I realized he won a Student Academy Award at BYU for his short film. He interned at Side Effects. He went to Pixar for 5 years. He went to Disney. He's absolutely incredible. So I brought him on full time. And it's like suddenly I had that Houdini guy that I always dreamed of having.
Yeah.
And that just elevates everything to where the project we were on, there were shots that were like impossible. They would have never gotten done if we didn't have a pro like that in Houdini who just knocked it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
Well, we want to get some of your feedback on the NFT world as well.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to do the drop here, Matt.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the drop?
Let's hop over to the drop.
Let's do it. Here we go.
The drop.
Is this the fucking mic?
Drop.
This is exactly what I should be doing.
What's up, and welcome to this week's episode of The Drop, your weekly source for all things NFT and crypto art, as well as upcoming drops by notable people in the Mograph industry. I'm Matt Milstead. Joining me, as always, is Dave Costin. Joining this week, Matt Silverman from Swordfish. Super excited to hear his opinions on the entire NFT space. So this should be a good discussion. But first, let's get the let's get the main stuff out of the way with this week's drops. Let's start off with Nifty Gateway. Dang it, I didn't put anyone's dates down. That's okay. I know the
328.
dates off.
It says
Yeah,
328.
328. So today, I'm really excited about this one. Julius Horsthuis. I'm not sure whether I'm saying that correct. But these are beautiful pieces. I really, really like these pieces. Dave, if you can scroll down, yeah, and get some of these.
Fractal collection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super, super cool stuff. I really dig the worlds that they're creating. You know, it's much more in depth than some of the crappy NFTs we see coming out.
Yeah.
You know,
I love this
But yeah.
Mayan fractal one. That's
Mhm.
really cool looking. I don't know
Super
if I can go
rad.
full screen on these, but yeah, really cool looking.
Yeah, cool looking stuff. So that's today's drop. Tomorrow's drop, there are two people. You may recognize this person, Raoul Marx.
Yeah, Raoul
you know?
Marx. Mm-hmm.
OG astronaut model. It's interesting that he's not doing any astronaut stuff, but yeah, this is Raoul's drop tomorrow. Cool looking architecture stuff, kind of surreal, gives me kind of like a Dali vibe, with the colors and stuff. So cool stuff. Yeah, make sure and check that out. The other one tomorrow is a Lehman Maupin. I'm not sure whether I'm saying that correct or not, but they are basically a gallery that are doing a different drop for, I guess, whatever.
It's
I don't know what all they're doing.
AR, visit Collect AR to preview them. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You can see them in AR first.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And then the last one is on the 30th, I believe. It says Vex.
Any relation to Vex, like Houdini
Yeah,
Vex?
Houdini? No, I don't
Yeah.
know. But I love the colors on this one. I think the work is really pretty. These are some of the previous drops that they have done. But yeah, really pretty stuff.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that
It's a
one.
good one.
Yeah. Other stuff. Maker's Place has 2 drops coming up. The first one is Ethan Pines. We talked about Ethan Pines before. Photographer, had a drop a few weeks ago, and from the success of that, Ethan's doing
I remember this.
another drop. It'd take famous people, photography, stuff like that.
Is that Rickroll guy?
I have
If I
no
can
idea.
pronounce his name.
No, that's Rick Astley.
Rick Astley?
I don't think that is. No.
Oh, okay.
It could be. I don't know.
Oh.
So that's the 29th. Then on the 31st, Patrick Ortman, also known as Motion Sickness, is doing a drop called States. Yeah, let me play this one so I can remember. Oh yeah, this one was
Very
cool.
Mography.
Very Mography stuff. Yeah. I really dug this one. It's like OG, Cinema 4D Mograph. I don't know whether he's using Cinema 4D,
Right.
but by the looks of it, it seems like it would be.
Right. That's a lot of cloners.
That is a lot of
That is
cloners.
a lot
yeah.
of cloners. Yeah.
Yeah. Render instances. It's your friend.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the big Ash 2 stuff, which I don't know much about it. It's a drop. POC, does the Ash stuff, and they've got a whole bunch of different creators who are doing pieces, for this Ash 2 drop. I know Blake Catherine's doing one, and Gavin Shapiro, a bunch of other really well-known artists in the space are doing drops for that. So I'm interested to see more about that, but that's today. Other than that, that's all I got for the drops.
Yeah.
Matt Silverman.
I
Go
had a
ahead,
link that I wanted to talk about real
Okay,
quick, which
okay,
is
yeah.
it's just a Twitter post that somebody mentioned. It's somebody who it's Bored Ape Conrad on Twitter, who owns an ape, and was talking about, I wanted to make you own a Bored Ape, you get the rights to it, right?
Sure, right.
Okay. What the problem becomes when you're trying to use these third-party sites to make stuff that has to do with your IP, which is it's yours because you own
Right.
own like the rights to do stuff with it. And he was like, I wanted to make some sweet high tops that had my Bored Ape on it, and I went to the site, and it's like, you can use any art you want, but if you look at the fine print, it's like, also we have the right to use whatever you create for our stuff and show it in advertising and stuff. So all of a
that's
sudden they
crappy.
could advertise that shoe with your Bored Ape on it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so you have to watch the fine print on everything and make sure that you're not like
Yeah.
turning over the rights to your ape or whatever it would be that you own to the company that you're getting something printed through. So just something to note.
Speaking of Bored Apes, I hung out with Frederick Duquette this weekend for a little bit. I was hanging out with him in Beige at the Otoy party, and I was like you do, no big deal. Fuck Render for those who don't know. I was talking to him. I was like, because he did this thing where he's like, hey, I'm willing to trade 3 Bored Apes, for a house in Vancouver, And I thought that was really funny. There was a few like, Matt, I could see you just like. But I was asking him, I said, are you still doing that?
Are there any greater fools here?
So he said he ended up selling all but one of his Bored Apes, because he wasn't sure about the project anymore. And I thought that was really interesting. But like he's like full on in the doodle space right now. I was like, all right, that's cool. And he just dropped his fuck Render avatars, and they had sold out in like a day or something like that. So it was pretty cool. But yeah. Matt Silverman, let's hear your opinions on why we're all wrong.
It's not that you're wrong. You could do whatever you want with your money. I just don't think it's a wise investment because it's a non-productive asset.
Okay.
And it's all it is a non-productive asset.
Mm-hmm.
It's an NPA, not an NFT.
Do you think that it's like more worth it to create NFTs for other people than to do it yourself, or?
No, I think anything, you're buying a block on a blockchain. You're not buying anything really. And that block on that blockchain is completely worthless. There's nothing there. You're buying an electron.
Mm-hmm.
And, the only way that it's going to become more valuable is if you find a sucker to give you more money than you paid for it to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, if you buy a house, it's a productive asset. This guy wants to trade his non-productive asset for a very productive asset.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a Bored Ape for a house, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the house, you get to live in it. It serves a function. Even gold is a non-productive asset that actually has function.
Mm-hmm.
So, if gold went to $0, you still can have a nice piece of jewelry out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can use that gold. That gold is valuable because it's used in electronics.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy stock, you're investing in a company that has real products or services.
Mm-hmm.
There's no difference between an NFT and crypto. You're buying a block on a blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the reality is that it pisses me off that it's called cryptocurrency because it's not currency. You have to trade it in for real currency in order to barter with it. Currencies are used to barter.
Not all the time.
Yeah, if it hit the status of being able to do that.
You could use it to buy a candy store at the market.
Right.
Coin exchange. No car dealership is going to take Bitcoin for their car because
not yet.
Today that car, today I could buy a Tesla and tomorrow I could buy a Honda.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The stability is the issue.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
The stability is insane.
Yeah.
So, and at the price it's at now, like you're going to buy anybody who's investing in crypto, you're not going to get the same return on investment as somebody who was willing to do it 10 years ago.
Right.
And
sure.
In order to get that kind of, if you want to become a millionaire off of Bitcoin now, you're going to have to put a lot of money into that Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Which means
absolutely.
you really don't care about the money you have. You already have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And the only 2 people I know who have done well on Bitcoin, one of them, his wife has about $10 million in the bank in a trust fund.
Mm-hmm.
So all the money that he makes from his day job doing Cinema 4D stuff is funny money. So he could go he could go play roulette or he could play Bitcoin, whichever he wants. It doesn't matter. The other people I know
stabilizes, it would
who
be
made
good?
A killing.
Do you
I don't think it can stabilize because it's the greater full model. No. And the other people I know bought MDMA on the Silk Road, and they had leftover change, and they didn't know how to get their money back. And they made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of that spare change.
That's
Right.
funny.
So, and I think it's important for people to understand the NFT game that got played with Beeple, because everybody hears that Beeple made all this money, and the reciprocal actions of people like you who own Beeples who can make money. But the reality is that the guy who bought Beeple's artwork didn't buy it for $69 million. He bought it for $69 million worth of Ethereum.
Yeah.
Right.
That guy bought his Ethereum when it was worth nothing.
Right.
So for all you know, he paid $690 worth of his Ethereum
Right.
to buy that art.
Yeah.
And what happened? It got on the front page of the New York Times that this thing is for sale on Christie's auction house, a very legitimate brand name that lent authenticity to this whole thing. It gets sold to this guy for 69 million bits. That guy gave $690 to get that art that he doesn't even own the art. He owns that part of the blockchain.
Right.
And it caused so much buzz that everybody then wanted to get into NFTs. And to put your art onto the NFT exchange, you need to use Ethereum to put your art up onto OpenSea. In order to buy the art from OpenSea, you need to buy Ethereum. And I've got a lot of friends who saw what happened to Beeple, and they're like, I just minted my first NFT.
Yeah.
Right.
You're the greater fool. You just bought Ethereum. What happened to the guy who bought Beeple's art? The other $400 million worth of Ethereum that he owns just turned into $700 million worth of Ethereum.
I can see that.
Because he made a giant pump and dump. It's
don't know.
real, dude. I'm not. See, and nobody understands the game. It's a giant game. It's a scam. It's a pyramid scam.
It sounds like stocks.
And you need
the
a greater
definition of
fool to
stocks
make
to
more
me
money.
too. You know.
No, it's not. It's very different, because when you buy stocks, it's a productive asset. You're investing in a company that's able to then become a bigger company and make more products and new products or services, and that's what your money is investing in. That's the asset.
So
there is no asset with
what would be the
Bitcoin,
solution,
crypto,
though?
NFTs.
What would be the
What's that?
solution to that? Like if how would you invest in art and feel that it is worth it to you, and that it is an actual investment, like investing in a real piece of art?
I would buy real art that I could hang on my wall and enjoy, because that right there is the that's the productiveness of art. I could sit and look at it on my wall.
I can watch my NFTs on my TV. It's on my wall.
And so could I.
Yeah, so that's why my question is, like, what is the solution to that? Like, if you wanted to buy somebody's piece of digital art, what would
I'd say if you want to be an artist, you could be an artist just like there always has been. You could be an artist, a fine artist, try to get in the gallery, sell your stuff, or become a commercial artist, and use your abilities, your skills, your natural born talent to sell out. And by selling out, I mean you're going to be making real U.S. dollar currency, real currency, and figure out a way to make your money. And so, for example, I'm now working on a game trailer for an NFT video game, where you'll be able to buy the characters as tokens. An investment company gave that company $5 million US, real money, to make the game. They then are taking a 10% of that money to create a trailer. The trailer gets made to create the hype. They then go ITO, initial token offering.
Okay.
This is the whole new model. This is the whole bullshit scam of Web 3.0, metaverse. It's all this giant hype that they're building up right now. But they take the company ITO, which means before the game is ever made, people are going to be able to buy their NFTs of that. I own Lizard Man. I'm making something up.
Right, sure.
So you really don't own anything. You own a block of the NFT with a little character of a lizard, a little avatar attached to it. And what's going to end up happening is that they're going to take the $5 million investment that they make to build this video game. They're going to hopefully sell $5 million worth of tokens. They have $10 million now to make a video game. If that game gets made and it's shit, your tokens are going to be worthless. If they go out of business before the game gets made, your tokens are worthless.
Yeah.
But the company got real US dollars. They're not doing it for tokens, they're doing it for dollars.
Right.
They're doing it for real currency.
For now.
Right.
And and I have no problem taking their US dollars to make the game trailer.
Right.
And if you look up the game that everybody's talking about in the space is called Star Atlas. Look up Star Atlas and look at the trailer that they made. It looks like Avatar. They spent over $1 million to make this trailer.
That's beautiful.
Which means that a CG studio, our people here, that's how you can make some real money off of this whole world. Use your real artistic skills to make art. Don't try to buy somebody else's digital Mograph cloner. Just because their name is cool doesn't mean that it's great art. It's an investment.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
That's what I would recommend.
Somebody's here to say hi.
Hey, Matt. I know you're ready for a nap after that flight you had today, so I'll keep this short. I'm good at keeping track of time, though, because I'm a watchdog.
Oh, God. No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Matt. I, too,
Matt.
was in L.A. for the NFT event at the Oscars, though. Not the one you went to. Mine's better. Did you see the whole Chris Rock thing?
We're going to talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what kind of dog Will Smith would be?
No.
Definitely not a boxer. With as much red as he was seeing, you think he's more of a bulldog.
He played Ali. What happened there? He played
right. That's true.
Slap him.
Yeah. Anyway, I gotta go. I gotta take a dog nap. I'm gonna leave you with this joke, though. Why was a dog suspicious of the meat packing plant?
Why?
Because it was by the pound.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, bye.
Oh, gotta love
so that's my theory on NFTs. Like, if you want to buy them and you think it's great, it's a lot of people bought these Beanie Babies,
right?
And they traded them, and it all comes down to like, what is money and why was money invented? It was meant to barter. Like, there was a point in time where we just bartered.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you're like, well, I've got corn and you've got milk. And you're like, but you know what? I got a lot of corn. I don't need any more corn. So there needed to be like this intermediary thing that you could get. Like, let's just use these rocks. Now I got rocks and I can later trade those for other things.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I don't know. If people want to do it, great. I don't think it's a good idea. And I don't want my friends to lose money. That's really where I'm coming from.
I get that. And as a studio owner, I'm curious, like, when this whole NFT craze hit, did you find yourself losing out a lot of like your solid freelancers that you had, because they're like, oh, I'm just making NFTs
Never.
now?
No,
that's interesting.
Nobody's made any money making NFTs. I know.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, the guys I hire can make a great living creating corporate porn for my clients. So.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. There was something else I was gonna ask. Now I don't remember. That's okay. I don't know. Like, for me, I've always been into collectibles, like I've got so many dang toys, and I just really enjoy collectibles. And so like for me, when people came on the show and talked about it, I always saw the blockchain as not so much it's on the blockchain, it's that you're using that thing on the blockchain as their certificate of authenticity, saying that this piece of art actually came from this person's wallet. I was talking to Mike, when he was speaking at Motion Plus Design this weekend, and I was asking him, because I think artwork on the blockchain, the NFTs, the NFTs are terribly marketed. I think the NFT name itself is a terrible brand, and it needs a completely new marketing platform, because that's what's going to happen. Some big corporation is going to come along and they're going to want to use the blockchain technology, the smart contracts and stuff in order to create something, but they're going to have to rebrand it as something else, before people will actually get on board.
There's a lot of good uses for the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good use for the blockchain, but crypto and this stuff is not it. I don't know.
I like Ryan Talbot's.
You can do what you want. Everybody can do what they want in this
comment.
world.
Yeah.
I just hate to see friends lose.
Absolutely,
and I got
I get
turned off
that.
to Bitcoin. I had a guy working for me that I told you he's done pretty well on crypto.
Mm-hmm.
But he'd have his laptop open at my office, and those Coinbase charts are just going all day.
Mm-hmm.
And for about 9 months, I'd walk by him and be like, "Yeah, it's still at 6,500, dude. Nothing's changed. Nothing changed." He'd be like, "Yeah, dude, it's about to pop, dude. Buy."
Yeah.
It's like, you're looking at me as the greater fool, dude. You need me to buy so yours goes up. There's no inherent value to it.
Right.
And it's destroying the world, dude. Like this whole proof of work system
Not
is
always.
impossible
Not always.
to sustain.
Not always.
Absolutely, dude. You can't defend it.
Not always.
I like Ryan Talbot's comment. He's like, "Yeah, I don't know anyone that's made money in NFTs either."
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, if you or anyone has an NFT or a piece that they're dropping, feel free to email us info@mograph.com. We'll show it on the show. To each their own.
Can I say one last thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I spoke to a woman who's also making a game,
Mm-hmm.
an NFT game. She got 15 million in investment. She previously started a Web 2.0 company
Mm-hmm.
that she took public and walked away with $500 million.
Jeez.
And she explained this whole scam to me. And she knows it's a scam. And she's doing it. Okay.
All right.
Now, but the trailers are the important part of this whole scam. And these, for the next 2 years until the regulations hit, which inevitably will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Get in on these trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where you could use your skills to make this money. And we did a thing last year at our studio. We were on a big job, and at the beginning of COVID, we had people sitting around. So we made a little short film called Talos that we presented at the Maxon Roadshow last year.
Mm-hmm.
So we made like a 2-minute trailer for this fictitious film thing that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just artists sitting around, and we were like, what are you interested in learning about? And we figured out a cohesive way to put it together into a short little film.
Mm-hmm.
It's on our website. And I'm looking at that, and I'm like, wow, this looks just like these type of trailers I'm seeing for NFT video games.
Sure, yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Let's take this and say that this trailer is an NFT video game. And we're going to figure out a game around the trailer, and then we're going to do an initial token offering, and we'll make Talos the video game.
Right.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or somebody will give me a bunch of money to buy the NFTs, and I'll make nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm not that guy. See, I would never want to scam people.
Right.
However, I have no guilt and no bad karma making the trailer for other people, because that's what I do. I make trailers for all kinds of products that are shit products.
That's funny. I mean, Yeah, I get where you're coming from, and there unfortunately has been a lot of rug pulls, and we even saw it this past week or so, where the FBI is actually getting involved and
Right.
like taking down some of the people who are doing this, you know. So I don't know. It's interesting to see. I'm excited to see the future of it still, but I think the NFT side of it is just one small thing. You know, it's the first proof of concept or something for a way, you know, for what's to come. You know, there's so much more. But yeah, let's wrap this up. Let's get back to the regular show. I gotta go pick up my kid here in a minute.
Let's go.
So
Drop. Is this the fucking mic? Drop. This is exactly what I should be doing.
Mr. Silverman, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I don't know if any of my recording worked or anything, so you guys might just have to throw this episode away. But we'll.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, we
figure
can
it
use the YouTube audio. It's totally
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. It'll be great.
Yeah.
It'll be great. Don't worry.
If people want to find you online, where can they find you?
We've been very bad at social media. That's a my New Year's resolution. I still haven't made. I made the first post the other day. But swordfish.sf on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
The company website is swordfish-sf.com, as in San Francisco. A lot of our work is up there. And then I also have mekajiki.com, where you could see our software that we're bringing to market. So we have Render Garden, which is network rendering for After Effects, super simple setup.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have Boardfish, which is a storyboarding page layout tool.
Cool.
And then there's a bunch of free scripts and plugins and things like that on there as well. We have a ton of other in-house tools that we've been meaning to give away, and we're just too lazy.
That's funny. Yeah. That's cool, man. That's great. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get out of here. You could rate us on iTunes, leave a review on your podcatcher of choice, help get our ratings up. You can subscribe to our newsletter as well. It goes out every month. I think we got one coming up this week or next.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say you've been there, done that, got that T-shirt with the Mograph logo tee, the Paul Babb, Feel the Babb 2020 shirt. All the profit from that goes to Doctors Without Borders. The
Thank you, Paul Babb.
Yes, thank you, Paul Babb.
The Mograph Blandishment shirt. I think, what else here? The Render Things long sleeve T-shirt and hoodie, and then the That Render is Fire shirt, which you are only allowed to wear ironically, unless you're shams.
Unless you're shams.
Yes. And make sure you hit us up. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and mograph.com. And that is about it. That wraps us up.
Yeah.
Cool. Until next
Cool.
time, I'm Dave.
Thank you guys very much.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Matt.
Have a good one.
Later, yo.